Many 501 deportees arrive in New Zealand with a criminal record, limited support, and a country they barely know. A second chance was on the table, but unfortunately, so were commercial quantities of narcotics, loaded firearms, and encrypted mobile phones. This documentary aims to present an honest and unfiltered account of the case surrounding the Sydney 501 shooter turned convicted drug importer, Alvin Tuala. Alvin Junior Tuala was reported as 48 years old at the time of his sentencing in 2026. Like many individuals deported under Australia's 501 character test legislation, he had spent much of his life across the Tasman after moving to Australia with his family at 17. In his youth, Tuala possessed significant athletic potential. He was recruited to play American football at Brigham Young University in the United States, positioning him on a trajectory toward a professional sporting career. However, this career was cut short when an injury permanently dashed his athletic aspirations, and upon returning home to Australia, Tuala eventually fell into the orbit of outlaw motorcycle clubs. Despite these associations, he established himself as a multifaceted business owner, which included operating a logistics company as well as a local tattoo shop. But in 2012, the criminal undertones of his social circle eventually erupted into severe violence. According to later reporting, Tuala became involved in a debt collection dispute at his tattoo parlor. The confrontation escalated into a shooting, involving the vice president of a local Hells Angels bikie chapter, as well as the man's brother. Tuala claimed the two men shot at him first inside his business, prompting him to return fire in self-defense. He was initially charged with 2 counts of shooting with intent to murder, and while a jury would eventually acquit him of the attempted murder charges, he was found guilty of excessive self-defense causing grievous bodily harm. This conviction resulted in a significant prison sentence, with Tuala spending nearly 9 years behind bars. After completing his prison sentence, Tuala was not released back into the Australian community. Instead, his visa was cancelled, and he was transferred to the Melbourne Immigration Transit Accommodation, where he was held while awaiting deportation. Tuala remained in the facility for almost 3 years. During that time, he managed to keep his logistics business running, using the income to regularly fly his family from Sydney to Melbourne to visit him. However, as conditions inside the detention centre reportedly worsened, Tuala became one of the organisers of a hunger strike within the facility in early 2019. For 2 whole weeks, scores of men refused to eat food, protesting living conditions that they argued were made to pressure them into signing the deportation paperwork. As one of the protest organisers, Tuala spoke to media outlets about conditions inside the facility. He claimed detainees lacked privacy and were given meagre rations, comparing the daily protein allowance to just 2 slices of ham. Tuala and other organisers later met with Australian Border Force officials and Serco prison managers, raising their concerns and calling for better visitation rights and larger food portions. Yet the protest could not stop the deportation machine, and 1 month later, Tuala was forcibly removed from the country. He later described the experience as a walk of shame through Melbourne Airport, shackled from his ankles to his elbows before boarding a Skytrader's charter flight guarded by prison officers. Both a return and an arrival, Tuala's plane first touched down in the city of Wellington, New Zealand. He later told reporters that upon his release, he was handed $120 and given 3 nights of paid accommodation at a local backpackers hostel. According to Tuala, once those 3 days expired, he had nowhere to go. He said he spent 8 nights homeless, sleeping in train carriages at the city's railway station, before a friend eventually paid his bus fare to Auckland. His wife and 4 young children also soon relocated from Melbourne to join him. Drawing from his own experience, Tuala became a vocal public advocate for 501 deportees. He said he had applied for more than 100 jobs, only to be repeatedly rejected because of his criminal record, despite holding qualifications in logistics, roadworks, and construction. He even discussed developing a networking app designed to connect qualified returnees with employers prepared to give them another chance. "We are not pedophiles and rapists. The majority of us just made a mistake," he stated. By this time, Tuala had publicly presented himself as a reformed family man, struggling against the stigma attached to 501 deportees. But New Zealand law enforcement would soon allege that Mr. Tuala was not all he appeared to be. The veneer first began to crack mere months after his arrival. In November 2019, Tuala was arrested for attempting to import the illicit depressant drug, GBL. The charge would eventually see him sentenced to 2 years and 5 months in prison, but this initial arrest would prove to be only a drop in the bucket. The full scale of his syndicate was uncovered in 2022, triggered by a massive international interdiction. Police and customs had intercepted a $2.5 million shipment of methamphetamine from Iran that had been cleverly concealed inside automotive shock absorbers. The investigation into this haul led detectives directly to Tuala's son-in-law, which subsequently placed Tuala himself under the scrutiny of authorities. And later that same year, the police arrived at 6 a.m. with a warrant to search Tuala's residence. As tactical units breached the property, Tuala desperately attempted to destroy evidence, physically snapping multiple cell phones in half before he could be restrained. During the search, officers also uncovered a loaded pistol hidden beneath his bed. At the time of the raid, the full scale of the operation was still not yet clear, as some of the most important evidence had been damaged before police could access it, thanks to Tuala going Hulk mode on the phones. What followed was a long forensic process, with digital experts painstakingly reconstructing the broken cellular devices in an effort to recover their encrypted contents. Those recovered messages would later become central to the case against him, and to why you're hearing this story today. In the month of May 2026, Mr. Tuala appeared in the Auckland District Court before Judge Kirsten Lummis. By the time the matter reached court, the physical evidence was already serious, but the digital evidence would prove to be the nail in the coffin. The case had already been drawn out by the usual delays of the legal process, but there was another reason it took so long. Digital forensic teams had spent almost 4 years reconstructing the broken cell phones and extracting enough information to get a clear picture of what had been going on. And while they couldn't recover everything, what they did manage to salvage was enough to expose what prosecutors described as a major transnational drug smuggling operation. The communications showed that Tuala had bribed package handlers within major courier networks, including Airmex, FedEx, and New Zealand Post, paying them cold hard cash to bypass the border security protocols. They also revealed a central figure in the network who was, quote-unquote, always looking for new doors constantly. A door just meant a weakness in the border security that could be exploited. To import the drugs, the syndicate used seemingly ordinary items to mask the illicit cargo, hiding packages behind customs declarations for belt sanders, to coffee beans and permanent markers. Police also discovered a customs document in Mr. Tuala's possession that allegedly listed which countries were safe to receive packages from. But the messages weren't just about the money. They also revealed Tuala's believed need for violence when logistical issues arose. In one intercepted communication, Tuala wrote, "It's time to give the box over, or cop a bullet." True. In another exchange, he stated, "Yeah, we can put a bullet in these C words, but that will F everything up." Represented by defense lawyer Bradley Moyer, Tuala stood before the court facing 6 counts of importing methamphetamine, as well as charges relating to MDMA importation and the unlawful possession of a firearm and ammunition found hidden beneath his bed during the raid. Moyer argued his client was merely a cog in the wheel rather than the de facto ringleader of a sinister drug syndicate, and emphasized that a long prison term would greatly affect Tuala from a health perspective, noting that during his previous imprisonment, Tuala's weight had gotten up to 276 kilograms at one point, but had lost more than 100 kilos since then. Although the defense acknowledged the leniency of the request, they asked the judge for a 7-year sentence, citing Tuala's guilty pleas, his rehabilitation efforts, and the impact his imprisonment would have on his family. However, the Crown would disagree. Led by prosecutor Taniela-Afu. They strongly rejected the idea that Mr. Tuala was simply just another low-level goon. Vakane countered the defense's cog metaphor with a blunt response. "He's a cog, without which the wheel falls apart," and added, "Anyone else in this operation is replaceable. He's not." The prosecutor sought a final sentence of 10 years imprisonment, alongside a minimum serve period of up to 50%, pointing to the scale of the offending and the need to protect the public. Judge Lummis agreed that Tuala held a distinct leadership role within the syndicate, and established a high starting point of 18 years for the combined offending. She then added a 6-month uplift to account for Tuala committing the drug importations, while he was already on bail for his 2019 GBL arrest. However, the judge also recognized the mitigating factors at play. She granted a substantial 40% reduction to account for Tuala's guilty pleas, his difficult personal background, his ongoing rehabilitation efforts, and the impact his imprisonment would have on his family. And with that, the final decision was decisive. Alvin Junior Tuala was sentenced to 10 years and 6 months in prison. Interestingly, Judge Lummis declined the Crown's request to impose the requested 50% minimum period of imprisonment. Addressing him directly in the dock, the judge left open the possibility of redemption, stating, "I am willing to accept that, at 48 years of age, with the help and support of your whānau, you are likely to be at a turning point. I certainly hope you are at a turning point." The victims in this case were not limited to any single person. The offending involved commercial-scale quantities of narcotics. The harm from drugs of that scale is felt by communities far and wide. There was also the impact on Tuala's family. His wife and 4 children had already endured his imprisonment in Australia, his time in immigration detention, and the upheaval of relocation to New Zealand. And now, they faced another lengthy period without him as he served his sentence. Tuala's case also brings attention to the broader issues surrounding Australia's 501 deportation policy. Social agencies have reported that many deportees arrive isolated and disconnected, and when combined with a lack of support, this can become a clear catalyst for reoffending, concerns that were reflected in the very case of Mr. Tuala. Police statistics indicated that approximately 1/3 of the nearly 2,000 people deported to New Zealand between January 2015 and August 2019 were convicted of at least one new offence after their arrival. Authorities have also noted a 26% increase in gang recruitment and membership, with some deportees bringing more sophisticated criminal methods into New Zealand's gang landscape. The case of Alvin Junior Tuala highlights the complicated intersection of deportation, reintegration, and organised crime. It shows the challenges faced by those arriving under the 501 regime in what feels like a foreign land, while also highlighting the justice system's responsibility to protect the public. And because second chances rely on trust, every time a case like Tuala's emerges, that trust becomes harder to offer, not only to the person who broke it, but to the very next person who may be genuinely trying to change. What are your thoughts on the case of Alvin Tuala? Was the final sentence of 10 years and 6 months fair? Was the 40% reduction reasonable? Or did the scale of the importation, the encrypted communications, and the loaded firearm demand a minimum period of imprisonment and a longer sentence? Share your perspectives in the comments below. If you found this documentary informative, please consider liking this video and subscribing for more in-depth explorations of often overlooked, lesser-known stories. Who else would you like to see us detail next? Your engagement helps us continue to shed light on otherwise unheard narratives.